28 days later, so I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. Hi all! For anyone who hasn't been here before, I'm Katie Lee and this is my fitness journey. Keep up with my progress by hitting that subscribe button. Make sure you give me a thumbs up and leave a comment down below to let me know how you're doing on your fitness journey. As you've probably guessed from the title of this video, I have been doing the Ting Summer Shred Challenge. I've been doing the 2020 version. She has got a 2018 and 2019 one on her website, which I highly recommend checking out. And I've got to say, it was a lot harder than it looked initially. But the 28 days are now up and I did it. I actually managed to get to the end of the 28-day challenge. I didn't miss a single day, to the point where I actually accidentally repeated a day without realising it. So it was actually a 29-day challenge, but yeah. Now I probably did maybe half of the optional workouts that are included in there. And for anybody that's thinking about doing it, I would advise including those if you can, but on some days it was just not going to happen. So rather than push it, I thought, well, leave it, work harder tomorrow. And that seemed to work well for me. I mean, the results, when you see them, should speak for themselves. So that's the good news. Now on to the bad news. You know how they say that bad luck always comes in threes? Well, I'm starting to believe it. Week 3 brought with it a silly little accident which left me with a cracked toe, which made burpees a thing of the past and planking one of the more painful things that I needed to do. Not really great when about 50% of this workout plan revolves around balancing or landing on my toes in some way. You can imagine the level of pain we were dealing with on that one. It wasn't great, but strapped it up, did some modifications, got on with it, got to the end. Hoped that was the end of it, but clearly the goddesses of fate had their eye on me because day 28 arrived and so did the dreaded Shark Week. And it was a bad one this time as well. So naturally I blew up like a startled pufferfish and stayed that way for a good 5 days afterwards. Because apparently sharky bloat is something that I'm not able to escape from, even with diet and exercise, so I'm just going to have to deal with it. But no sooner was I squeezing myself back into my leggings and fate struck again. I very much learnt the hard way that stretching out after an exercise is a really good idea. I managed to pull my lower back. Very painful, don't recommend it. I sneezed, that was all it took. I sneezed and pulled my lower back and have been in pain for the past few days. I mean, it's so ridiculously dumb, I'm embarrassed just admitting it, but apparently it happens. And it is my own silly fault because I should have been focusing more on stretching out after my exercises and I wasn't. So I have already started rectifying that, and will be doing so going forwards. One trip to my favourite sports therapist and an hour-long back massage later, and at least I'm back to moving semi-normally at this point. But it's going to take a good couple of 3 weeks before I'm fully back to normal. On the plus side, I've been getting in extra squat practice every time I drop something on the floor because I haven't been able to bend over to pick it up again. So there's that. Which means we're now a week late at this point. Because I don't know about you, but the last thing I want when I'm so bloated it feels like my jeans are going to snap me in half and I'm hunched over like my great-grandma is to get in front of a camera. So let's talk results. Regardless of my appallingly bad luck, I did do really well over the last 4 weeks. If you've watched my previous video, you'll have seen the results that I got in the first 2 weeks, and they were surprisingly good. And while the second 2 weeks weren't as obvious in terms of progress physically, I have still made progress and I have learnt stuff, which is arguably more important because I can carry that forwards. Since I know a lot of you are probably here primarily for the results and the results only, I won't hold those back. So let's see how I did. As a reminder, here's the before and here's where I am now. I am absolutely stoked by how well I've done in these 4 weeks. I didn't expect to do this well. Not in such a short period of time, but let's have a look at some side-by-side shots so that you can do a proper comparison. My waist has nipped in, My hips have shrunk, my legs have also gotten smaller, though mostly in the middle of my thighs, so they're doing this odd hourglass thing at the moment rather than looking like tree trunks. I feel like I should have been flexing in these. Oh well, next time. I think my muffin top has started to shrink, and those grey shorts? Yeah, I couldn't get those over my hips when I first started this. It's been hot as hell these past few weeks, so I've basically lived in them ever since I figured out that they fit me again. Haven't got an abs yet, but then I didn't really expect to, not in just 4 weeks. That's something I'm going to have to put an awful lot more time and effort into actually getting them and then into keeping them once I've got them. I've still got a fairly thick layer of fat covering up all the muscle that I've been working on building. So my next step really is going to be working on burning that off while still continuing to strengthen the muscles underneath so that I can get that definition. So let's talk measurements for a bit. I have lost an additional 3 pounds on top of what I lost weight-wise in the previous video, which brings my weight loss total to 9.5 pounds, which isn't too shabby. I've lost an inch on my hips, and I've lost over an inch on my waist, so it's nipping in nicely at this point. Firstly, I want to say that I think that this is a really good starting challenge for somebody who is able to get out and about without too much issue, go out for walks and whatnot, but isn't massively active aside from that. It's very difficult to start off with if, like me, you've not particularly moved for the last 3 months, but it's very much doable. Keeping up with Chloe is impossible. I gave up on trying to do that quite early on because I very quickly figured out that there was no way I was going to be able to match her move for move. And that's not really a bad thing. It gives me something to aim for going forward, to be able to actually do that many push-ups, to be able to do that many squats, to be able to do that many lunges without pausing and at the speed that she does them. The low impact versions of the exercises that she provides are really good, particularly for anybody who either lives in an apartment, so doesn't really want to be jumping around and annoying the neighbours, or if they, for whatever reason, can't do the high impact versions. For example, if you've got a dodgy knee. Second thing that I learnt leads on from the first, in that it was to not try and copy her move for move, because when I did, my form was terrible. I tried for the first 2 weeks to keep up with everything that she did, and I figured out by the 3rd week that that was going to be a really bad idea for my lower back. And funnily enough, pulled the lower back, so, you know, proved myself right there, although I'm not entirely sure that the two things are actually connected. But for the life of me, I cannot keep my lower back on the floor when I am doing floor exercises. If I'm having to do scissor kicks or leg drops, anything like that, I cannot keep my lower back on the floor. After watching a lot of other YouTube videos and reading an awful lot of articles online, I eventually figured out something that worked for me, which was to shove my hands under my butt and to push my elbows into the floor, which raises my chest up. That then forces my lower back into the floor and means that I can do the exercises a bit better without actually ending up arching my back up. And after I started doing that, the ab exercises definitely seem to work better, so highly recommend if you're struggling to keep your back on the floor. So then on to thing that I learnt number 3. Actually activating the muscles you're supposed to be concentrating on. Now this is something that I admittedly haven't really ever done before. I mean, I have been in and out of fitness for pretty much my entire life, and at no point has anybody sat me down and said that you have to focus on the muscle that you're trying to work. I, like I'm sure a lot of people out there, just try and get the exercise done, because as long as you're moving, that's all that matters, right? Well, no, it's not at all, because if you're trying to do an exercise to focus on a particular muscle and 6 other muscle groups are picking up the slack, you're not working that muscle, or at least not as well as you could be. So the other thing that I learned was to focus on what I was actually trying to do. So if I was doing an ab exercise, I would focus on making sure that my abs were doing the majority of the work where possible. If you are doing squats, make sure that you have got your weight where it needs to be in order to work the muscle groups that you're aiming for. If you lean back onto your heels when you're doing a squat, you will work a slightly different muscle set than if you lean forward onto the balls of your feet. So being mindful about the muscle that you're actually trying to work definitely helps. And it does make the exercises harder because you're actually focusing on what you're supposed to be doing rather than just forcing your way through the entire 10, 15, 20 minutes just to get it over with. And the hardest one for me to figure out was how to engage my core. Everything else I got pretty quickly, but that one took a while. Turns out that sucking your belly button in and trying to pull it back towards your spine and up seems to work brilliantly. So now that I'm done with the challenge, would I do it again? Absolutely, definitely. In fact, given a few more months, I may well do the same challenge again. Because I've seen such fantastic results, I feel fitter, I feel better in myself, and I would never have achieved this without having something set to follow. And I know I'm not alone in this. I know that there are others out there that are exactly the same, in that if you haven't got a set of steps to follow, you end up kind of petering off and stopping, because you've not got something else to tick on the list. And having everything on a piece of paper that I can tick off as I go along has worked fantastically for me, because it's kept me on track and has meant that I could get through that 28 days without stopping, without taking a week break in the middle because I didn't feel like it or whatever excuse I came up with that day. And to be honest, I'm probably going to end up doing more of Chloe's challenges going forwards. She's got a new one out now that I have had a quick go at, but then the back issue happened and I've had to stop. But I will be doing that one at some point. But she's just got this energy that comes through on the videos that makes you want to work harder, to put your all into it where you might half-arse it. And that's really important when you're first starting out on something before it's become a habit. So that's it. Challenge 1 done. On to the next one. I will probably have a slight break from Chloe and then come back onto her new programme once my back is feeling a little bit less tender, because there's no way I am doing her ab exercises at the moment. So watch this space for my next challenge video, which will be coming up in the next few weeks. Make sure you've clicked on that subscribe button so you don't miss out. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, or a thumbs down if you didn't. That's an option for you as well. And either way, leave me a comment down below to let me know what you thought. Let me know how you're doing in your journey. I am working on my next video as we speak, so watch this space. Bye for now, and I'll see you all very soon.